All right, welcome to lesson 10. This is Elapsed Time, and today's lesson requires a lot of memorization. It's not so much solving mathematical problems on the board, and a lot of this you have probably memorized, and that's great. If there's some new things that you take from it, that's great as well, and you need to take any new ideas to memorization. So if you need to write notes down, make flashcards, please do that because the items that we're going to talk about today should be memorized. Talking about time, let's go ahead and start with a day. Now, a day is measured by the Earth spinning on its axis one full time. So when the Earth spins around once, that's a day, and that day takes 24 hours. Now, on a clock, here I have an analog clock here, and it's pointed at 12 o'clock. You notice that there's only 12 hours. So a clock cannot do a full day unless it's a military clock. But a normal clock, an analog clock, only has 12 hours because we split our 24 into two groups of 12, right? So 12 hours from midnight, if you're up way too late and your clock hits midnight, it's 12 a.m. That's a little a, little m with a period after each letter. 12 a dot m dot. That's 12 a.m. And the clock goes around for 12 hours and it goes till 12 at lunch. Now this 12 is different because it's p.m. It's the middle of the day. So that clock, as soon as you see lunchtime hit, it's no longer a.m. anymore. It's p.m., p dot m dot in lowercase letters, okay? And then it stays p.m. again till it gets back to midnight. So it's 12 hours of day, 12 hours of night, okay? That's how we divide our day up on the analog clock, okay? Speaking of the clock, you see that I have my hour hand and minute hand both pointed up at the 12. The minute hand is always the longer one. And your clock is divided up every hour into 60 minutes. Okay, so every hour is 60 minutes. And I have, so I have the minute hand here. And if I point it over to the 1, it's been 5 minutes. There's 5 minutes between every hour here. And then if I go all the way to the 3, I've hit 15 minutes, which is a quarter of an hour. You could look at that, just see the shape here. Okay, that is a quarter out of a circle. Okay, so you could just think as soon as it gets over to the 3, oh, it's been a quarter hour. Same with when it goes down to the half. We've just hit a half hour. Half of the circle has been taken up. Then 3/4 of an hour, and finally a full hour. So once it makes around 60 minutes, that's an hour. And in addition to that, 60 seconds make up every minute. So I have that written up on the board here, and that's something you should know and have memorized. A day equals 24 hours, an hour equals 60 minutes, a minute equals 60 seconds. All right? Let's talk a little bit about years. Okay? A year is measured in how long it takes the Earth to go around the sun. So when the Earth goes around the sun once, it's a year. Now, a lot of you might say, well, a year is 365 days. Well, that's kind of true, but not technically. Okay? Really, a year is 365 and a fourth days. And you might be saying, a fourth day, how do we have 365 full days and then a fourth day? Well, we make up for that by adding a day on the calendar every 4 years. You see, let's say this year we do 365 and a fourth, then another 365 and a fourth, then another 365 and a fourth, then another 365 and a fourth. 4 years have passed, okay, and we have 365, 365, 365, 365, and we have a fourth, a fourth, a fourth, and a fourth. And we just saw it on the clock, right? If you have a fourth, a fourth, a fourth, a fourth, and a fourth, 4 fourths, you add those up, and you'll have one whole. So we decided on our calendar that every 4 years, we would add an extra day to the calendar to make up for that fourth extra that it takes the Earth to make it around the sun every year. So the 365 is called a common year. That's a common year. It's the normal year. It's what you usually see on the calendar, 365 days. But every 4 years, we add an extra day. That day is called leap year. Okay? Many of you are familiar with it. And in that year, we have 366 days, and we add that day onto the month of February. And so February doesn't have 28 days that month, it has 29. So every 4 years, there's a February 29th. The funny thing is if you are born on February 29th, which my good friend's son is, he's a leap year baby, okay? And that means the year he was born on the 29th of February, but the next year there's not a 29th of February. And there's not one that went after that, and the one after that. Every 4 years, there is a February 29th, and he'll technically have his birthday. So when he turns 16 years old, really, he's only had 4 birthdays, so people joke around and say, oh, well, you're 16. Really, you've only had 4 birthdays, so you're 4 years old. But they just celebrate that usually on March 1st or on February 28th. So it's just a funny thing. And now you know about the days of the year and the little extra that it takes the Earth to get around the sun, and how we just add that on to every 4th year. I believe their next leap year will be in 2012. But I might be wrong on that. All right, what else? I think I have covered everything you needed to know, so let's go ahead and look at some reteach problems and just see what kind of questions they're asking you to know. Questions they're asking you and what kind of things you should know about time to be able to solve these. So, number 4, really simple question. How many minutes are in a half an hour? Okay. Well, I know you might just know that right off the bat, but let's see how it looks on a clock. Here's your minute hand, okay? It goes over to the 1, that's 5. Every time it goes to another number, it's been 5 minutes. So let's just count by 5s. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Right at the bottom is a half hour, and that took how long? 30 minutes. Number 4 would be 30 minutes. Okay. How about write the time that is 18 minutes. This is number 6. Write the time that is 18 minutes after 4 in the afternoon. Okay? Well, here's 4 in the afternoon. Okay? Now, be careful. They're asking you afternoon, so they want to know if it's AM or PM. Okay? And we want to go 18 minutes later. So there's the 15 minutes. Okay? And then 16, 17, 18. So just 3 little notches after that. Okay? There's 4:18. So you need to write that down as an answer. Okay, we need to write it down correctly. So the way we write time, 4:18. Now they said it's in the afternoon, so you need to include if it's AM or PM. Afternoon is PM. Okay, so the time would be 4:18 PM. One more question. Oh, this is a good one. Number 8, and you know what, we needed to talk about this. So, number 8 says, how many decades are in a century? Right? We didn't talk about that. So 1 year is 365 1/4 days, or a common year is 365 days. A leap year is 366 days. A decade is 10 years. Right? That comes from the root deca. Decagon is a 10-sided shape. A decade is 10 years, right? So when you hear that, a word that starts with deca, it's some symbolism for 10, okay? The meaning is 10. So a decade is 10 years. Many of you have lived for a decade, right? And on top of that, a century is 100 years. Same thing with deca. Cent means 100. 100 cents make $1. So there you'll see all kinds of connections with that, with different kind of Latin and Greek roots. So this one, number 8, says how many decades are in a century? Well, a century is 100 years. Okay, and a decade is 10 years. So how many 10s would fit into 100? 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. That was 10 decades. Okay, make sure you label your answer 10 decades, and you've completed 3 of the problems with me. I hope this lesson's been easy for you. If you have any questions, come and see me.